Welcome back to Stu's Structures. We're here for this week's segment of building the coaling towers, so stay tuned. So like I said, welcome back. We are here to continue the coaling tower with this video 10 of the series. We're getting down to where I'm running out of the multiple things to work on each video. So maybe we'll be less scattered in this video. Let's just jump into this and see where we're headed from here. Now I'm going to come back and just do a couple more things on this end of the platforms. There's a ladder off the end, and where the platform's stuck off this end the way I built it, I need to get some supports under there too. And this is just the picture of how it sits at this point in time. And there would have been a ladder that came up this end wall up to the platform. So I went through all my teachy parts, and I have more of these ladders that I had purchased, so I went ahead and cut one of these off this sprue, and I'm just going to take it outside and put some black paint on it. Well, before I did that, I'm getting ahead of myself here, I just put it into place and I marked how tall I wanted the ladder to be, and it only goes down to the top of that concrete abutment. It doesn't go all the way to the ground. Now this would have needed some supports that went back to the wall, and there's places on the wall that were made for a ladder from the original structure. So I'm just going to cut 6 of these, and I'm going to make mounts to mount the ladder to the wall. And these aren't very big, and they don't stand out much from the wall. I'm just taking this white plastic angle and cutting pieces. And here you can see, I was letting the paint dry on this while I was cutting all those angles. And I figured out where those mounts were on the wall by setting the ladder up there, and I scratched some paint off the side of it. And then I came back and glued these onto the ladder at that point in time. And then I came back and put some paint on these, except for the piece on the very bottom of that you can't see, because I want to leave it open so that the glue can get under there and get good adhesion without paint on it. And then I go ahead and glue that onto the wall. And you can see how this lands on the top of that concrete abutment down below. So there's some other things we got to do. But there's a long space down below that, and I do add 2 more supports to that as well. And in this previous picture I showed, you could see here that this platform sticks out beyond the building, and it needs some supports out there on the end. So I'm going to take one clear out to the very corner of that on both ends, and then take it back to where it mounts on the concrete wall back behind. So I make these 2 supports and just put them into place, make sure everything's going to fit really good. Then I come back and put black paint on them. And then I come back and glue those into place, and that's one more little chore done on this, and the platform's good and secure, so men can climb up there now and do their work without worrying about it falling off the wall. Now I am going to go ahead and backtrack on this some. Remember I said I wanted to do all this work underneath and get it finished so I don't have to go under there again. I had these 2 sets of weights that I had cut off that were too long. So I put flat black paint on the balls and came back and glued those into place. Then I glued the rest of the pull downs onto the ends of the chutes that you can see here, and went through and put black paint on all the rest of the weights underneath. And then I came back and painted those pull downs and just touched up the black paint everywhere else underneath, and basically that's as much as I'm going to do underneath. You really won't see much of this. I do come back and just take a flat black paint and just spray a little black underneath there. I may add more weathering later, but it would have had all that. Now I'm going to come back to this end where I added all these cooling chutes before. Now remember, we still have the weights that counterweighted the chutes themselves to add to the rigging we did last week. And I'm just using this same string that I used for the other weights. Yes, it's a little small for this, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. It'll serve the purpose, and it's not as heavy as that sanding thread which I used and I didn't like. It was just too heavy. So I cut 6 of these, and I come back and glue the very end ball onto these. And remember from the last of these we made up, remember there's some separation in the last two balls at the bottom of these counterweights. I don't know why. Once that first one was set up, I come back and glue the second one on. And then I leave the space for the third one and come back and glue it on once the next one is dry. And I'm just going back and forth between these and the other stuff that I'm working on, so this has time to set up before I'm done with something else. And then I come back and add the last of the weights to the top of all those, and I have 6 of all the counterweights here ready to rock and roll. Now I think since I've got all that stuff done on this side except for these weights, now, I left these till last because I didn't want all these strings and everything to get in my way. So I start coming back and I'm just doing one side of each of the chutes because I don't want to get my fingers, in the way and get things tacky. And then I come back and do the other side. And that's just to make things easier on me to put these on. And I'm just adding the weights up to the pulleys to begin with and letting the other side run free. And then I come back and start gluing all those strings to the other, the other end, to the top, the front of the chute, so that can lower and raise. And I just glue all these in place and come back and, take my nippers and cut off all the strings. Once that's done, I have to come back and put a little bit of flat black paint over all this shiny glue, but basically that's that part done. Now the other thing I want to get started on, which I started years ago, are all these walkways from the upper level clear down around the back of the structure and onto the ground in the front. You can see from these pictures there's just, there's a lot of stairways and open grate and platforms, and it's just a lot of stuff here. I'm not sure how much I have in my bag of tricks. I might have to order a few parts for these, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. You can see this on the back side, and in this next couple of shots it comes on down to the top of the sanding facility there, and then from there it goes down to that auxiliary mechanical building that I built, to the roof of it, and then on down to the ground from there. So it's just a lot of tedious little, stairwells to build. And, it's not a big deal. The parts come pre-made and molded, and all I got to do is glue it all together. But I had started this years ago, and, these are the pieces that I originally started with. I'm not real happy with all these, but I'm going to go ahead and use them. Some of them, are slightly broken, but the handrails on the stairs are what bother me. Here you can see the assembly once it's put into place, but the stairs themselves, the stanchions on the handrails are 90 degrees from the stairs and not 90 degrees from the ground, which is really weird. And then I have this next assembly pre-built too, and these came with that original kit when I bought it, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and use these. I looked through all my parts and stanchions and everything, and I really, I could scratch build all these and remove all the ones that are on there. But, I have several different bags of tricks here with handrails and handrails for stairs and all kinds of stuff. But even these that are pre-made, if I cut the old ones off, because of the angle of the stairs, the stanchions on these are not perfectly 90 degrees. They're at an angle too, and wouldn't meet all the flat platforms as well. And I do have several of these open grate platforms left, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff I've saved from tons of kits over the years. A lot of these were from that original coaling tower. Plus, you saw earlier in a previous video of all these open platforms that I ordered from Chi-Chi's. So I'm going to come back and start with this first piece that I had pre-made. And, you can see in this picture how the handrails on the stairs are kind of funny. But it's also at the very top, it's missing one of these side handrails where it goes into that door. And as I'm handling this, I also end up breaking off the one on the other side. It's just, very fragile. So I came back here and I've replaced one of them at this point, and that's when I broke the other one. So I'm going to have to come back and replace the one on the other side of this too before I mount it onto the building. I keep looking at these handrails. You can see here how the stanchions and all these are 90 degrees to the stairs themselves, which in real life, that's not the way they would have been. In this lower end, there's some things I've got to add to this lower end, but you know, this is the way it stands at this point in time. And you know, those stanchions really just bothered me, so I'm coming back and removing all the stanchions and the handrails on all the stair sections of this. The flat parts of this are okay, but the two first assemblies that I had pre-made, I'm going to remove all those and start from ground zero with stanchions and handrails. Now another thing we need to work on is where I added this ladder at this end, there were grab irons that came up this concrete abutment here that went up to the ladder so they could get up there to it. So I just took a piece of ladder and came back and marked where those were going to be. And I found these, you know, they're part of the coaling chutes grab assemblies actually, but I decided, well, I'm going to use those for, you know, steps going up this concrete. So I came back and marked those with that ladder, then I pre-drilled holes at either side of where those would have mounted in here. Now it's just a little narrow, so I'm going to come back and, you know, figure out something else that'll work better. And then next, another little thing that I got to add on to these are the pull downs for the chutes. And the front of these would have had ropes, so I just come back and cut some more of that thread to use as pull downs. And the chutes had a little tiny place at the top of them where this would have mounted into. So I come back and glue all that into where the coaling chutes are, and I have the pull downs on the coaling chutes. So that's just one more small project and another piece of detail out of the way. So there you have this week's segment of the coaling tower. You know, the handrails and stuff, you know, I started putting those stanchions on there, and I was looking through all my different plastics, and Lord knows, you know, I have just, you know, tons and tons of all these different sizes of plastics, and you would think between all this I would have what I need, but you know, I really need like a 1 or 2x4 in long lengths to do the handrails on all these stanchions on all these walkways, and I just don't have anything. I debated cutting long strips out of for sale signs and stuff. The problem is with real long strips, they tend to want to curl and not be perfectly flat, and it would just be a pain to cut long strips and use those like this. So I just decided not to do that, and I went ahead and put some on order. So they should be in mid next week, and then I'll just add that rest of this into next week's video. And you know, there's several other things I have to experiment with here and work out yet. When I built the tower, I didn't have styrene in the windows. And at this point, you know, I'm not going to come back and cut individual panes and try to mount them all in those little windows. So, you know, I'm going to experiment with some canopy glues or something like that, and see what we can come up with to fill in all the window panes in all the windows. In any case, you know, we're coming along well with this building. We're getting close to finishing this thing. There's a few odds and ends and some other little details that I want to add here and there on this when I get to that point. But you know, the chutes are done on that one side. I have some handholds to put underneath that ladder. I ended on, you know, added onto the one end there. There's just a few other odds and ends that I haven't included in this, but we are getting there. So, you know, maybe another video or two and we should be able to get this completed. I have several other little small buildings that I want to build, so I'm looking forward to getting those started. As a matter of fact, I might start some of those in the background while, you know, I'm finishing this building up. Excuse me. But, you know, I want to come back and thank my new subscribers. I'm getting a few here and there, and I do appreciate it. And I saw a subscription on there for the nmra.org. I don't know if, you know, if so, I'm not a member. I just, you know, I haven't had the money to support groups like that. I do appreciate what they do for the hobby. They do a lot of good for this hobby. So in any case, I'm hoping that means that it's going to be put out there before some of their members maybe. You know, a lot of the quality that they require to get your various levels in their organization are good. It's a good way to learn, to meet some of their criteria for their awards and things they give out. One of the things I really appreciate, from other model railroaders, and I have done this quality of stuff, most of these buildings, you could do a show on each one of these of taking them to the next level. And one of the things I really appreciate about the model railroad publications out there is when I'm looking through them and looking at pictures of model railroads, if I have to look for 5-10 seconds at it to spot something that tells me it's not a real photograph of a real railroad and then it's a model railroad, to me that kind of realism is really like wow to me. And I like that kind of thing. And I have done a couple of real small dioramas that were to that level. And each of these buildings that I'm doing, there's some imperfections in quite a few of these. I've said many times in my videos that I'm looking to get the flavor of. I like rivets, yes, but do I need the 100 rivets in a panel to all be in the right place? And if there's 99, is that not a subpar building? To me, that kind of thing really doesn't matter. I don't want to, have something that looks like a Plasticville, model out of the box with molded paint, and something that, not to put kids down. There's a lot of good model railroaders in the hobby that are younger people, but just something that's childlike. I'm going to use that term. If I look at a picture and it takes me a while to see if it's real or not, that's I said it before, that's wow. I like realism. It's nice to be able to bring your scenes to life, and the more detail and stuff you can put into a scene, the more it brings it to life. And you can't bring it to life any more than something live, whether it's birds, cats, dogs, people, living, moving around, breathing things. Nothing adds more realism to a photograph than that. So in any case, I'm rambling again. But my whole point to all this, if you're scratch building something out there, one of the ways to cover up some of your imperfections is just by adding a lot of detail items around the subject. And then people look more at that kind of stuff than maybe some of the imperfections in the buildings that you may have. That stuff goes a long way, whether it's an automobile or, anything, a boat in a river, anything for detail, trash cans with trash in them, or, anything. That kind of stuff really just brings a whole scene to life. So if you're scratch building and you're not really pleased with the outcome of your building, add more of that stuff around it, or cover up a bad seam in a wall with a vine growing on it with some foliage, or there's ways to cover and hide lots of things. And I do some of that because I'm not, I guess I'm kind of my own worst critic. I like perfection, but I don't strive for it. The more I see of other people that do that, the more I am in awe of this hobby. There's some people out there that use, real glass from glass slides in their windows, and real glass looks maybe not a whole lot better, but it does give a better realistic view in a window than styrene and plastics, So anyway, thank you to my new subscribers. I do appreciate you coming to my channel, and hopefully we can build the channel up a little more. Like and subscribe to my channel. Everything that helps my analytics helps me get out there and more people see this content. I would like for more people to scratch build. So just grab some materials, scratch build, work on the details, and happy model railroading.